Hey, what's up, everybody? I see everybody coming in. What's going on, you guys? I'm so excited to be here right now. I'm live. I'm without my partner in crime, Mr. Rob Antonin, but I got a special treat for you. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you guys been waiting and anticipating that our special guest that we have today. And I'm so sad that my guy Rob is not going to be on here today. But as you're coming in, I see folks coming in. As you are coming in, put in the comments box where you're from, because we're going to have a very special guest, and you are going to be able to dialogue with her today. You're going to be able to ask her questions. You're going to be able to just talk back to us, talk black to us like you normally do every day of the week. But I'm Constance Carter, and I want to tell you that this guest that we have today, I'm super excited about talking to her. She has several hits. She is from Canada. She's from Ontario, Canada. And she's been around a while. She's just kind of hanging out, and she just came to hang out with me and came to hang out with y'all. And we're just going to talk girl talk today. So since Robert's not here, we're going to just kind of have some girl talk and just talk about, what she's up to in the world. And I know you guys have a lot of questions that you want to ask her as well. So we're going to get to it. Okay. I see you, Cincinnati. I see you, Minka from Cincinnati. I see you, Mimi from Rochester, New York. Michelle, what's up, Dallas by way of Atlanta? Hey, Felicia from Modesto, California, and Jay Trapp from Philly. All right, so come on in. Nikki from Florida, I see you over there. Who's that? Coach Tanetta from Harlem, New York. What's happening? What's going on, Miss Claudette from London? Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we have people from all over the world that chime in. So if you're from London, if you're from Africa, if you're from Asia, go ahead and tap in as well. Miss Charlotte Miss Nicole from Charlotte, North Carolina. I see you, boo. What's happening? So, all right, now that we got all of the niceties and the intros out the way, I want to bring on someone that's very special and I'm super excited about talking to, Miss Melanie Fiona.
Hello.
What's up, lady? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is so cool. I didn't realize this was we were going to have interaction with people. So that's super cool. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's the cool element about our show is that, we come on, every night. We sometimes, I talk about like motivation. Sometimes we talk about Black love every Tuesday and Thursday night. And we have a lot of people that tap in, and we just talk about different topics that are relevant to what, the things that we go through. And we have faithful people who have all different types of opinions, and it's really interesting. But so they're here, and we're a little bit earlier because we normally get on, in a few hours. So some of our faithful folks are watching right now. See, we got folks from Alabama. We got Stormy from Brooklyn. We got Desi from Huntsville, Alabama, from all over the place. Mr. Antonio checking in from Chicago, from Chi-Town. So they are here to see you. So what you been up to, Miss Melanie? What's been going on?
Just trying to survive a pandemic and, be the best version of myself. I think like all of us who are blessed to be here on this chat today, things are good. I am building and creating a lot of very new, exciting projects and ventures that I think, as a human being, as we evolve, especially as an artist, we just are able to tap in and learn new versions of ourselves. And so, being at music and having an audience there during this time, wellness has become such a huge part of my life. And it's always been a part of my life, but it's been a huge part of my narrative in sharing with people online. And I think it's especially gotten so big over the last year because people have just been really needing outlets and vices and practices and rituals to, maintain their wellness through this really hard time. So that's what's been going on.
That wellness piece. Yeah. How have you adjusted though with the pandemic? Cause I follow you on Instagram. I see all the great and amazing things you do with your husband and your son. How have you been able to adjust? Because we talked to a lot of celebrities, some, especially when in the beginning of the pandemic, their money was cut off like that. They make a lot of money, then they spend a lot of money, and you just are not prepared for, something like that happening. How have you been able to adjust?
Fortunately, I've always planned my life to rainy days, and not to say that I don't focus on sunny days, but I consider myself to be a pretty modest person. So spending has never really been a huge thing for me in general. And being smart with my money, especially as an entertainer, has been, a key to, I think, my survival throughout every obstacle, whether it be professional or pandemic. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of plans for 2020. My last show was on Valentine's Day of last year. And then, it was like, oh, instantly no work. And, fortunately, like I said, I planned for rainy days. And, I did what I could do. As far as being a brand is wonderful as far as the creative, because you can create opportunities for yourself, especially in an online space. That's really helpful for me. But, really getting in touch with self has been really, really helpful. That's been, I think, and I know it sounds crazy to say, but I really do believe that when you are prioritizing your well-being and you are focused on the intention of your life and you really start to really tap into your purpose, I feel like the universe and God really just respond, and they reply and they listen. And that's really what I attribute. I don't know. I can't even tell you the perfect formula for how I made it through the last year, but by the grace of God and the energy that protects me and surrounds me, I've fortunately been able to thrive, and that has been a blessing. I feel like the thriving comes from my tapping into my creative side. I feel like that really getting further in touch with myself has been the key to my wellness and really just being able to maintain peace through the storm.
Let's talk about that, because I hear a recurring theme. I hear a lot about wellness, a lot about tapping in. I hear a lot about, being the best version of yourself. All things that are necessary, that we have to live by it if we want to succeed in life, right? And I know that you talk a lot about wellness on your Instagram page. Let's talk about that, because you're doing something I think that's really unique with this newsletter that you're doing. What is this about?
So pretty much everyone knows me for music, and I've been blessed enough to have a beautiful foundation of people who still listen to my music, are still asking for new music, and I hear you, and trust me, it's a journey, and I'm so looking forward to sharing all of it with you guys. But in this time, I just realized that, well, first of all, social media is a bit of a trap, right? It can be a bit of a trap because it's got an algorithm, and then you're trying to match the algorithm so that your people see what you're doing, and some people see your posts and they don't. And I just felt like I was offering so much that I thought would be helpful to people. And it became frustrating that I couldn't reach the audience that I really wanted to at the drop of a dime. So I had a history of people who had signed up for my newsletter on my website, basically wanting to know when shows were going on and what was going on within my life and my career. And I finally just woke up one day and I was like, why am I not talking to these people directly? Why am I using other platforms to reach out to the people that I have direct contact with? And so that's what really woke this initiative up for me. I wanted to be able to speak to my people directly. I wanted to be able to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm doing a show in Chicago. Don't miss it. Because so often people are like, how did I not know you came to my city when touring was around? And then, like I said, through this time, people have just become very invested in my life and in my motherhood journey, in my journey to wellness. And so I wanted to be able to offer that to them directly. And, going to your inbox is just the easiest way for me to keep it. I even have a text community where I actually text people back. Wow. And, that's been it's been great. It keeps me busy. It keeps me active in my purpose. And I just think it's the new wave, is to be able to directly connect with our fans and our audience.
So how does that work though? So they sign up on your Instagram or on your website, and then you send a newsletter with what does a newsletter entail?
Yeah, so there's 2 tiers of my newsletter, and the first one is just a free newsletter that anybody can go and find it online and you can read. And those are just more occasional posts. If I have something to share or something going on, I'll definitely be sending that out in the blast newsletter. But I started a separate tier, which is a subscription service called My Wellbeing Fam. And through that, it's a more curated experience where people have more direct contact to me. I create specific journal entries, which I call my wellness diary, where I share very personal stories about myself and how these translate into wellness experiences for me. I share some of my wellness practices, lifestyle practices, products that I love, health, beauty, wellness, health, all the things that I think people have over the years let me know, they're like, what is it that you use and how do you manage this? And I also do one-on-ones with my community, because I think that's really important. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to, and I am by no means, a mental health professional, but I'm a human being that has done a lot of self-work, and sometimes people just need someone to talk to and listen to and to feel heard. And I just try to offer any insight that I can, just because I feel like I don't have it all figured out, but I feel like what I have learned in my life, I would love to be able to share to help other people.
The fact that you're so accessible is like unheard of. And I could also think of one other person, Chrisette Michelle. She sort of does something a little bit similar too, because she does a lot of wellness and a lot of I think she has like a sisterhood group that she does where she's really doing, talk about purpose. And I think she does like Bible studies and things like that. The fact that you both are so personable and so reachable is really unheard of for somebody, within your stature. Why did you decide to do, I know you said why did you decide to do that and be so accessible as opposed to kind of being up here where people can't really reach you?
So I don't know. I think that there's levels to everything, and I think that for me, I have always felt inspired and motivated by the connection of people. And now, mind you, I'm also not a very publicized person, and that's not my personality either. So I safely create boundaries for myself, and there's a time when I'm activated in those spaces, and then there's a time when it's my personal time. Mm-hmm. I think the thing about me, and it's just personal to my experience, is that my audience is very much respectful of that. And my audience are not clamoring fans trying to gossip or get, smut and run with the can. It's none of that. These are real people that I think is a testament to what I've put out there. And so I've never really wanted to have the type of fame or notoriety where I couldn't walk down the street. I've never wanted that.
Okay.
And that's a choice, and I understand that. Sometimes people want that for themselves and they don't get that, Some people, their career or their offering or their gift, whatever it is, catapults them into a space of stardom and notoriety that they can't even feel back, and I just always tried, no matter at the height of my career in music, at the lows of whatever, quiet times of whatever that's been, I've always just valued my audience so much for being with me. And, it doesn't feel like work, what I do in this space, in the wellness space. Right. It feels like purpose. And it really helps, honestly, fill me up, because I just think that I have a deep desire to see the world a better place. And I have a deep desire to see people be well. And I know how important that is for the world that's coming up, now being a mother. Yeah. And, if I can make a small dent in the community of 2 to 3 million people, subscribe on my social media platforms, or have listened to my music, or have ever resonated with anything that I've said or done, if I can reach them and give them something a little bit extra, that is what I feel longevity is. That's what I feel. Yeah. That's what I feel real branding and purpose is.
I love that. I love that. And you talked a lot. And for those of you just logging on, we are talking to none other than Miss Melanie Fiona. And if you have questions, put them in the comments box, and she's happy to answer your questions today. You talked a lot about purpose. And what is your purpose?
Well, I'll always give it back to my 4-year-old self, because I feel like this is the best way for me to describe what my purpose is, because purpose is a little bit of a hard thing to kind of like pin on the head. Mm-hmm. It's more of I think a personal fire inside. But when I was 4 years old, I said that I wanted to be a singing nurse when I grew up. And it gets a chuckle every time. I used to laugh at it growing up. I used to always be like, oh my gosh, what a ridiculous thing for a child to say, a singing nurse. And as I got into my music career, and as I started touring and doing shows and meeting my fans and meeting my audience, I quickly learned that my music career wasn't just based in selling records or, being on stage or being famous, quote unquote. I never like that word. But But, you know, I realized that when you have an audience listening to you, what are you going to say? And what are you going to give them? You know, what is it that you're offering when people are listening? And then my music and my voice and my reach became much more of a mindset. I started making decisions about things and opportunities that I would take and that I wouldn't take. I would turn down things that I didn't feel aligned with my morals or my ability to sleep well at night. And sometimes turning down a check. And, you know, that's really how it became. And then I think recently I finally came back to this 4-year-old self of mine where I realized that music is my gifting, but healing is my purpose.
Healing is my purpose.
And so, you know, that 4-year-old self of mine understood this connection at 4. You know, there's nurses and people that make you feel better. And then there's music that also has a healing component. And I think that's always been in me. And I've always been that girl that's like the home girl that, like, I'll never forget one night I was pulled up to the traffic light and I looked over in the car next to me and there was a girl just sobbing her life away. And I immediately just was like, are you okay? And like, I immediately started to feel emotional. I've always been an empath. And so, you know, that being an empath is dangerous in a sense because you can feel so everything accessible, right? And so I've learned how to manage that for myself by creating this community. And back to I saw somebody said, how can you find your purpose? I really do feel that you can look back to your younger self and you can find it. I really do feel like our younger selves know who we are before the world comes in and decides you can't be this, you're not enough of this, you don't look like this, you're not built for this, you don't come from this. And I feel like as children, we are very free. And that is really, I think, the key. So I always tell people, like, just try to think about who you were as the youngest version of yourself, to think about who that person was. Were you precocious? Were you outgoing? Were you outspoken? Were you shy? Whatever it is. But think about that thing that brought you the most joy. Wow. And I always feel like there's a direct line. When you really tap into your purpose, it connects back to your younger self. And I'm so happy to say that I do feel that way about where I'm at in my life now. And it didn't come without hardship, and it didn't come without, you know, a story to tell and loss and failure and stumbling. And, you know, it's all of these things. It's all of it. And I really try to look at life not in good or bad. I really do believe that everything is working for you to discover your purpose. If you pay attention and if you just tap in.
That's good. You know, that what you said, just like Nakia said, it really does resonate. I don't know. And I thought about, you know, when I was 7 and I was sitting in Sunday school and my aunt, Rosie Mae Jenkins, was my Sunday school teacher. And this will always stick with me. It's not necessarily my purpose, but it certainly established something for me. My aunt said, you can be or do or have anything you want because God loves you as much as he loves anybody else. He doesn't love you any more. He doesn't love you any less. He loves you the same. So you can do anything. And I remember looking up to her and saying, even the president of the United States. She said, even the president of the United States. So that right there kind of set my path to, I can do anything because I'm just as good as this person. I'm no worse than this person. So if he can have this, how come I can't have this? If she can do this, how come I can't do this? Because they're more important than me. And that goes back to that 7-year-old that was fearless. And just like you said, Melanie, you have to dig down to that place when there was no fears, before those people put those limitations on you, before they said you can't do it. What was that thing inside of you that told you that you could?
Yes. And I believe that we all have it. I really do believe that we all have it. And if we haven't tapped into it, I believe that we can find it. Yeah. And I really I actually just took a course on the science of well-being. And I talk about this in my newsletter too. And the part that really stuck with me, which was really interesting because it brought me back. And just when I thought I felt like I had a hold on myself and I was like, oh, you're doing good. This one concept just shot me back down. And I was like, oh, damn, I really don't have to figure it out. And it's the concept of fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Mm.
And, you know, a fixed mindset only allows you to feel that you can operate and succeed within the limitations of what you know to be true about yourself and that you are good at. Whereas a growth mindset is the one that really affects your happiness quotient over the grand scheme of your life. And that's the ability, back to your 7-year-old self, that I can do anything. That if I dedicate enough time, energy, and focus into anything, I can master anything. And once you convince your mind that you can do that, you are unstoppable.
It's a wrap.
You're unstoppable. There's just nothing you cannot do. And so I felt like for the last few years of my life, even though I was operating in a very well space, I had to call myself out and say, you're kind of operating in a fixed mindset, you know? And that's really where, you know, when I encountered obstacles in my music career that I didn't know how to get over, it paralyzed me. And I felt like I couldn't take a step in any direction because I was so attached to this version of myself. And the minute I allowed myself to say, you're not just one thing, you can be all of these things, you can be anything, then all of these obstacles and
ambition
my way, they all of a sudden started to lift. And everything just started to come into alignment, and everything that I felt was holding me back, whether that be physical, professional, mental, spiritual, they all started to lift. And so, you know, we are not just designed, I think, to be this one-dimensional thing of a version of ourselves. And so when you can tap into that, you're limitless. No, nothing can stop you. No obstacle, nothing, because you see that you can overcome.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, even though you're not at the height of your career and you're doing you and you're taking care of your family, your beautiful family, which I want to talk about, but I feel like you're in a better space than you were even at the height of your career.
100%. 100%. And
peace surpasses all of that. Peace is
success. And I actually, in the most recent, there's a public newsletter, so anybody can see it. If you go to the link in my bio on my Instagram page, you'll find it, and you can go in there, and I break this thing down on like how I got here, and I talk about it on like 2 albums, 2 Grammys, a mental breakdown, a spiritual awakening. And I basically just bullet pointed in to let people know that like I wasn't well during that time. You know? It was successful and I was happy and I was doing the best that I could. But once I realized that I wasn't present. Things were happening around me and I was reacting, and I was, you know, just kind of like getting through it based off of the best way I knew how, which was not knowing how, because I'd never been there before.
Wow.
You know, and it took losing my voice. I lost my voice, and this is literally physically lost my voice.
Wow.
And this was the turning point for my wellness, to be honest, because I lost my voice, and it was solely because of the trauma and the spiritual unawareness I had for myself in not recognizing that this thing is my gift. And this voice is my gift, however I choose to use it. And that comes with great mindfulness and has to come with great responsibility. And I wasn't being mindful. I was being self-deprecating, and I was being, aggressive with my words or how I was able to express myself. I didn't know. And my throat chakra, for anybody who's familiar with chakras, was 100% affected. And I lost my voice. And that was my wake-up call in 2012. And that was after the MF Life came out. That was after Grammys. That was after touring. That was the height. And everything fell apart. And then...
So what was the work that you had to do to come back from that?
So it took a lot of understanding of self-love. It took a lot of understanding of spiritual trauma and understanding faith and God and the connection to a purpose and a thing that's bigger than us. I didn't have that. And I can admit that. I wasn't very religious. I wasn't very spiritual even, and I was kind of just existing, but I didn't have that respect for a greater power, and not even just a greater power than myself, but a greater power within me, because
in yourself.
They're all interconnected. Like the God above you is the God in you.
That's
So
right.
if you don't see that, then you cannot get to that next place in your life, power.
Right.
So I remember I went to all these doctors and they checked my vocal cords and they said, there's nothing wrong with your vocal cords. It's not a thing wrong. And it was one doctor that said, I know that I practice Western medicine, but I would really like to send you for Eastern medicine. And he sent me for acupuncture, and he sent me for Reiki, which is an ancient Eastern form of energy healing, which I was a little skeptical of, I will admit, until I surrendered to the idea that I didn't have the answers, until I was surrendering to the idea that this was a journey I was going to go on, and I had to be willing to be open to everything that was going to be presented in front of me to find what was going to work for me. Wow. And I ended up going for 3 sessions of acupuncture, 3 sessions of Reiki, where I had 100%, no bullshit, actual physical responses where I felt the dark energy leaving me. I felt this weight in my throat leaving me. And I would cough on the table and I would cry, and it was like a therapy session without words. And I just remember feeling better than ever. And then I went on tour with Mary J. Blige and D'Angelo and never had a vocal issue again.
Wow. Yeah. So many people, especially folks who, have been, were raised here, of course, and then who have their religious beliefs and, limited conditional thinking, they don't believe in Eastern medicine. That stuff is really, really, really real.
Real.
Everything that you've gone through, that you went through, is really real. And then the healing from that is real.
Yes.
So I think a lot of the lesson for me is folks need to expand their understanding. They need to expand their horizons. We got the internet now, y'all. So it's not like when we were back in slavery where we only had the information that was given to us. We have access to everything. Expand your horizons. See what else is out there. See what other healing that you can get, because you have no idea. She went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and they could not heal her. But she went to an Eastern medicine practitioner and was totally and completely healed.
Yes. And I, one doctor who was just a regular ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, he asked me in one session, after he looked at my vocal cords and he didn't see anything wrong with them, he asked me, he said, what kind of a year have you had? And I was just coming off of a horrible breakup, a cross-country move, a restarting of my life, a very high intense, very successful part of my career, high energy, and then also like low things happening. And it was a lot. And he asked me what my year has been. And I instantly broke down. And I instantly was like, no one asked me how I was doing. And just asking me how I was doing opened this floodgates of, he told me this story about a man he was seeing. This man had this like perpetual like frog in his throat. He was always coughing and he couldn't clear his throat, this older man. And he had a few sessions with him and he couldn't figure out. And he finally just asked him like, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? And he learned that the man had lost his wife and his daughter in a tragic car accident. And basically what had happened was, that feeling you get choked up before you cry? This man's whole emotions, everything was just in his throat. Wow. And he was grieving and he couldn't release because that choked up feeling, there was tension in his neck. So even if you don't even think about it from a spiritual standpoint or energy standpoint, our bodies physically store trauma. We forget that these things are possible for us. We forget that things like, I believe, cancer and stress, like these two things are very highly connected. The amount of stress we keep in our bodies, from our mental stress to our physical stress, and our bodies are just our bodies. And so we have to be very in tune with what's happening, mind, body, spirit, to be able to have a holistic life. And so, I've always been open to alternative forms of medicine. My dad is a very, very holistic guy. He's always been, vitamins this, and he's karate, judo master this, and the mind is your greatest asset and your mind is your greatest muscle. And thankfully for that, I've always had that. And then also I just grew up multi-faith, having two parents from different faiths. And so I think I always had this very open perspective that there's people look at things differently, and sometimes people do things differently. And so sometimes if you want a different result, you have to be willing to do things a different way.
That's right. And to your point, our bodies take this huge amount of abuse from what goes on in our minds, and we have to learn, and it's a process, because you can't just control your mind overnight, especially if you've been thinking a certain way for so long. But, if you can get into that practice, and, if you could share it with them, some of the things that you're doing, I guess probably go into your newsletter and really starting there. And that should probably uncover some things for some folks. Do you think?
Yeah. And then also just consider the idea of meditation and what meditation is. Just read it. Just don't even think that you have to try it. Just get familiar with the understanding of what meditation is and how the practice of quieting your mind allows you to control your mind and to control your thoughts. And somebody listed it, like, learn to let go of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and things that no longer serve you. These things, I really believe that we have the ability to unlearn things that do not benefit us for where we are or who and where we are trying to be. And so, meditation sounds foreign to people, but if you're faith-based as far as religion, if you pray, that's meditation. It's a form of meditation, and it's really important. Meditation, the benefits of meditation over time have proven to help people on a significantly functional level, and it's just like I just encourage people to never say that you can't do something. I'll be the first to admit I believe in meditation wholeheartedly, but I am not a meditation master. My mind still wants to talk to me. My mind still races. But the practice of showing yourself that you can show up to try is where your brain and your mind, you start to control your mind. And that's half the battle. It's really an interesting thing. It's really an interesting thing. So meditate, try to do things differently. Again, back to like that growth mindset situation. It's just like, show yourself that you are not limited to what you know. Humble yourself to say, I don't know it all, but I'm willing to learn.
I love it. So as you're on your growth journey, and you were recently married, is your husband, is he on the same journey with you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When we first started dating, that's when I really started to get into spirituality and my spiritual wellness practices. And one of the things that made me fall even more in love with him was that he was very open to going on that journey with me. And, he started seeing my wellness practitioner as well. And he had actually come from a Christian background, and, but he was very open. It was very open to all forms of healing and wellness. And so it's definitely more of my thing, but he respects it. He's on the journey with me. He has his own practices of which he does. He actually does breath work with a group of people that he works with. He usually starts and ends his week with a breath work session. And for people who don't know what breath work is, it's also a form of meditation, but really just focusing on breath. So it's not even necessarily about your thoughts, but being able to control your breath really can help you in moments of stress. And so for his work and practices, they implement these things for each other and hold each other accountable for these wellness practices. So I'm really happy to say that I do have a partner that operates from the space of mindfulness. And, I'm also raising a child that way. And so that's very helpful as well, because sometimes if you don't have two parents that feel the same way about a certain thing, it can be counteractive and counterproductive. So my son meditates, we talk to him about his breathing, we talk to him about his presence and being able to express himself in a very mindful way. And I think that if you can instill these things in children at a very young age, these are the tools that help make well adults.
Right. And how old is your son now? Is he 5?
He's 5. He just turned 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And you started homeschooling him, but were you going to homeschool him pre-pandemic anyway?
No, I wasn't. He was in school. He was in a Montessori school, which I love the idea of Montessori because it's very hands-on and it's a very free thinking type of environment. But then just started, pandemic hit. And we made the decision to do homeschooling. And fortunately, for any parents out there, I'm not a homeschool teacher. I'll be honest with you. I will sit with my son. I will read books with him. I will help him with his printing. I will do the things that I can do, but I am not a facilitator. I know I leave that to the professionals. So we managed to form a very small homeschool pod with him and another one of his friends, and found an amazing teacher. And she would come to the house and she'd work with them for a few hours, a few times a week. And and that has been a game changer. That has been for all of us, just because I do think that sometimes, and I know there are parents who do homeschool with their children and they have a wonderful relationship. I think every kid is different. And I think that for me, the way my family works best is for us to have our designated roles. And, I love that my son had a different relationship with someone that he could look to for guidance and authority and learning. And, him and his dad and I can be the ones to reinforce that. Yeah. And so, I want to be his mom. I want to be his life guide. I want to be able to help him in those ways. And I feel like parents, this time has been so hard because, we're trying our best to be all these things in the middle of a pandemic, and it's depleting us.
Yeah.
We don't know how to undo all of these things. And the feeling of failing is already a mind, block in itself. And so, when you feel like you're not showing up for your husband enough or yourself or your children enough, it become overwhelming. So I always encourage people to, if you can, ask and seek help.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it all. I don't think that people should convince themselves that they can do it all. And the idea of super mom is a thing. It's not a thing. It's not. It's not. You just have to do your best.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like when your children see you trying your best and giving your best, I feel like that actually goes much further than them getting it right all the time.
Yeah. And then operate within your strengths, right? So really identify where you're strong at. And then the places in that you're weak, you get other people, you have a community, you have other people help you, you hire people, you do whatever. This homeschool thing has been, for me, I have 3 boys in school. My daughter's in college. She's getting ready to graduate, but my boys are 12, 14, and 16. And they're all very different.
Can we just pause and give you a round of applause? Because it sounds like you went back to boom to boom.
I was like, again. Yeah, it was like that. Ain't doing that again. But they're all very different in how they learn. And like my oldest, he's doing okay. He's doing good. My middle, he just can't get this homeschool thing. So he's struggling. My youngest, I'm like, how did you get on the honor roll? And I see you laying down all day. Like, how are you? So it just depends on that child. And I can't wait. My middle son, he just went back to school yesterday for the first day physically in school, which I'm totally happy about it, because I do know that is not my strength. That is a weakness of mine. So whoever can help
you got to know what it is. And yeah, like our plan is to put our son in school in the fall. That's the plan. And we'll see what the plan and the pandemic has going on then. But, I'm just prepared to facilitate learning for my son, however is best for him.
Yeah.
And, I've seen that. Who knows? He might get into school and not like it, He might get into school and not really feel like he likes regular school. And I might have to look back into homeschool and consider all the options. I think, too, for parents, just again, back to the idea of being open to things, allow yourselves to not necessarily believe everything that's been told to you. You know, just like you said, you have 3 sons and they all learn differently and they all operate differently. And I think that you just find the best ways to be like, all right, we're going to figure it out for you, the best way we can.
And that's the thing is trying to figure out. So as long as you're making the effort to try to figure it out, then you're winning. But if you don't do anything, then you're losing. And I'm the biggest advocate for my kids when they're in school. I'm there, as Black boys, there's just a different level of responsibility that you have to have when they go to school. because there's a different perception from them, even with my daughter, right? From them being boys to her being a girl. There's just a different perception that I've had to go and set some standards and have some conversations with some teachers, especially with my oldest son. But with the other ones coming up behind them, they already knew, oh, he's a Carter. Yeah. We ain't messing with him because we already dealt with his mama on the first one. So, it's been that kind of thing. But we have to be the ones that are the advocates for our children, because nobody is going to do better for our children than we are.
No one.
Yeah.
No one. And I will be the first. And to be honest, the Montessori school that he was in, I saw quickly that I didn't think that he was enjoying the experience there, to be honest. And I already had concerns about it. I had concerns about how he felt he saw himself there. I noticed that he was only resonating and being drawn to other kids who looked like him and that were of the minority. And I thought that was really interesting. Just naturally, he gravitated to the kids that he saw himself in. And the pandemic happening kind of was a blessing in disguise, because I didn't know if I was going to keep him in there. I had already had a meeting with like the teacher staff and being like, is this normal? He comes home crying every day. What's going on? And, as a parent, you never want to feel like you went against your instincts with your kid.
Absolutely.
And so the pandemic happened, and I just remember being like, I know what's happening. It's not, we're good. We're going to just do home for another year. Yeah.
So what do you plan on doing post-pandemic? What's the plans for you?
Well, post-pandemic, I intend on putting my son in school so that I can have all my days back. That's one thing. And then honestly, I really want to get out and tour again.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I really want to get out and see the people again. In the last few years, I've been blessed to be able to continue to sustain a career for myself in music, get out there and do shows. And I just love performing live. I love it. I love being with the people. And I feel like now, as I've expanded this
the singing nurse.
Exactly. I can take her on the road and create a different experience for what my shows look like. And they don't just necessarily look like, high heels and drums. Like, it's like, I want to create an experience for people that is a holistic experience. And, I want to be able to get out there and facilitate workshops and do public speaking. And
I love it.
And travel, girl. Oh my God. I miss traveling with my husband. I mean, we fell in love traveling. Our son loves to travel, and I just really want to see my parents. I want to be able to go home and see my family without having these restrictions and these limitations. And I want to have a full ceremony of a wedding, because we didn't have that.
Because you've been married, what, 3-4 months now?
Or it'll be 4 months. Yeah, this month. And, we didn't do it in the presence of our parents. For anybody watching, we eloped, for lack of a better word. We went down to a local chapel in LA, did it on the same day, signed the papers, bought a bottle of champagne at the liquor store next door.
Not the liquor store. Not the liquor store.
The whole video of it went viral. We loved sharing that with the world, because I felt like people needed to see joy, and people needed to see Black love, and people needed to see something to celebrate, because we forget that we can still deserve to celebrate even in hard times.
Yeah.
And I want my dad to like walk me down the aisle, and I wanted to like ring ceremony, even though we're married. I want to do that. So post-pandemic, those are some of my plans.
I think I read somewhere that you postponed your wedding 3 times, or you turned them down 3 times. What happened? What was that about?
So the pandemic. I mean, we planned it, and then with all my family's in Canada. His family is in between New York and Florida, and it just became, okay. Well, first it was we wanted to do our wedding in Italy. That was our first plan, and then at the beginning of the pandemic, Italy was the first to shut down. So we were like, oh man, okay, it's not going to be Italy. Fine, we'll bring it back to LA. So we went from destination wedding to domestic wedding, and then LA shut down. And then it was like, okay, that's the second time we can't do this wedding. And then the third time we were trying to do it, it's actually really 4 times by the time we pivoted again. The third time was, all right, forget it. We'll aim for September. And if anything, we'll just have a small ceremony in our backyard. at our house with just like 20 to 30 of our closest friends. By September, things should be fine. Things were still not fine. And, you know, we didn't do it again. And then the end of 2020 came along, and I wanted to have just our parents in our backyard for Christmas, come to our house, and just our parents, like no one else, just our parents, and would just do it in the backyard, and that'll be it. And then they had travel bans, and my mom had knee surgery, and it was just, the timing just wasn't working out. So we just decided, this is about us. I think if anything is driving us to understand and pull from this, is that it's about us.
Yeah.
And let's just go get it done. And so and I bought a $50 dress. My bouquet was gifted to me from this very generous florist. I went in to try to like buy flowers the night before our elopement ceremony. And I told the guy that I was getting married, and he just gifted flowers. And everything aligned. And then even the photographer and videographer that captured the moments for us, I just had her come because we were going to be dressed. So I said, come take some family portraits of us before we go and sign the paperwork. And she came with us to go while we did the ceremony, so we could just have some personal photos. And she just said, do you mind if I capture some video on my iPhone? And I was like, no, sure, whatever. And she put this beautiful, unscripted, unaware version of our capture of our day, and it was the greatest wedding gift ever. And it just turned out to be exactly perfect in the most difficult way. Yeah, as it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. You know what I love about you? I love how you find purpose in everything. I love how you see, you know, how the pivots happen, and you see the purpose in that, and how the detours happen, and how the obstacles come, and you see the purpose in all of that. And if people could take their minds off of the obstacle and the detours and all of those things, and see what the purpose is in that, and see that it's for your betterment, or see how you can grow from it, I think we'll be much better off. And I love how I love your perspective on how you look at things. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. My mantra for 2020 to anyone out there is, your perspective is everything.
Perspective is everything. Now, you said your parents are from different backgrounds. Where are your parents from?
So my family's Caribbean. My family's from Guyana. I'm actually the only firstborn generation Canadian in my whole family. Everyone else is born in the islands. And so I love that part of myself. It's a huge part of my culture, a huge part of my identity, rather, my culture. You know, the foods, the music, the patois, the energy, the vibe of being a Caribbean woman is like, I don't even know how to be anything else. I would never want to be anything else. I love it. And then my husband is African-American, and he's born in New York, but because of New York, he's got an understanding of Caribbean culture. And so, yeah, I always used to say, like, I was like, I can never be with a dude who doesn't understand my culture. And I remember one night when we first started dating, we went to this like local spot in Brooklyn where I used to live, and they do a reggae night. And I went in there and I was like, this is going to be the night that I'm going to know if he can really make the cut. And we went in there and he knew all the songs. And so I was like, all right, you're a keeper. I can keep you. You passed the test. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm going to ask one last question. Like you said, you're ready to go back on tour. What's your favorite type of venue? Do you like the big venues, or do you like the more intimate ones?
It's so funny because people ask this question all the time, and it's hard because, again, I feel like I'm such an energy person that, you know, doing a big venue is incredible. Like, I have done stadiums with thousands of people, and it's an amazing feeling to feel when they are with you and engaged and in sync, and they're singing your songs, and it's an incredible feeling. But there is just something magical about a small venue.
Yeah.
There's something magical about being able to look into the eyes of every single person in the room, to connect, to see, to feel, to speak to directly, to hear every pin drop. And I love it. Like, one of my favorite venues to play, which I always go play all the time, even after I do a big arena, is City Winery.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
I love City Winery Atlanta. Chicago is one of my favorites. I just love those venues. There's a venue in the Bay Area called Yoshi's.
Yoshi's, that's one of my spots. I'm in the Bay.
Oh yeah! The Bay. When I first left Toronto, I lived in the Bay for 3 months.
Where?
In Berkeley.
Okay, right on. Okay.
I was doing dance classes at a studio called New Style Motherlode. And it was great. I met amazing people. That was my introduction to the music game in the States. So it was
wow. Yeah, Yoshi's is an amazing venue. I love City Winery. Yeah, Rob and I were just in City Winery and a couple of months ago. Look, I think Chrisette was performing back in December. And, you know, Atlanta was different because I'm in California where everything is locked down. Everything is shut down. I'm like, you guys are really doing it out here.
They are.
I think we were one of the few that actually had masks on. I was like, wow, okay.
Girl, they've been open in Atlanta. In fact, I've had a show that was supposed to be at City Winery in Atlanta last year that has been canceled, rescheduled. And it rescheduled actually for May 5th of this year. And, you know, I kept waiting to hear, you know, because Atlanta's so open, I thought they were going to call and be like, all right, we open, let's go.
I'm ready.
I just was like, I don't know if I'm ready to go to Atlanta yet.
Hey, play it out there.
But unfortunately they did. They ended up rescheduling it again. And, you know, I really feel for my fellow creatives and performing artists because this time has been so difficult on the music community. And so seeing somebody, can we invite her to it? Yes, I want to go to Costa Rica, please. But yeah, this time has been so difficult on the music industry. And, you know, our livelihood is based off of getting out there and people buying tickets to see us. Yeah. You know, we've all heard the conversations about how streaming or pennies on the dollar and it's crazy. And, you know, artists, if you're not in a certain bracket of success or, you know, caliber of exposure, then you're having a hard time right now. And my heart goes out to every creative that's been affected by this, because it is when you put your entire life into this one area, it is just so hard. It's so hard. You're so, and again, like for my personal journey, I started to pivot before the pandemic.
Good for you.
You know, so that's, I think, what saved me. But like, if you were solely 1000% all eggs in the basket of live performances, venues, touring, you've taken a big hit. And it's, I think that people don't know how they're going to eat and provide for themselves.
So are you going to do anything else besides music? Is there anything else you want to do besides your wellness? I know that you're doing that and that's your heart, love, and your passion. Anything else, like any acting or?
So I actually, at the end of 2019, I was cast to play Chaka Khan in American Soul. And that was so fun. That was
yes.
So fun. And so, yeah, my mantra is attached to nothing, open to everything. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, if acting should arise, absolutely. I'm actually working on a book.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm working on a book. I'm writing a few books actually right now, which is great. And
more than what oh gosh, your brain can do that?
Well, you know, because they're really easy things for me to talk. It's just stuff that comes very easy to talk about. You know, I'm not writing about anything that's foreign to me. I'm not creating a fictional story. These are all practical motherhood wellness literature experiences. And, you know, it comes very easy to me to be able to share these things because I've been working in this space for the last few years. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be music in the future. You know, a lot of people I know, you know, always want to ask, where's the music? What's been going on? And, you know, if I could have put an album out for you guys in the last 7 years, I would have. And that's what I can say about that. I experienced some obstacles which were preventing me from getting new music out to you guys, but I'm so blessed to say that that's behind me now. And yeah, thank you. And of course, focusing on the future is what's really important. And I feel blessed for the foundation I have in music. And I feel excited about what I can create in music now that I'm in this different space, in a free space to do so. So, you know, music is always going to be a part of my life and my career and my purpose. And so, you know, thank you to everybody who's just stuck with me, who has grown with me from becoming an artist, mother, creative, wellness advocate, human being. I'm so, so, so eternally grateful. And I'm just very excited about everything that I have to offer moving forward.
Thank you. So how can they sign up for your newsletter?
Yeah. So you can either find it if you follow me on Instagram, you can click the link, you can find it, subscribe there, or you can go to melaniefiona.com and you can join the mailing list and it automatically adds you. And then I will send you the newsletter. You'll be welcomed into the family. And it's such a beautiful community of people. Everybody's so positive and it's really beautiful. Please do a voiceover guided meditation. These are all the things in the works, Nakia, I promise.
Good, because you can have an app that we can download and okay, you're already working on it.
It's all a part. This message, by the way, I really feel like I was divinely guided to see this live. My spirituality has been renewed. I love this because too often I see people being like, oh, I feel like this message is for me. I feel like this tweet is for me. And it is, because what you are seeking is seeking you. I promise you, at all times. If you are open and you are aware to it, whatever you are looking for will find you. It's there. And so, Nakia, thank you for that message, because that's success to me. That is what fills me, and that's what makes me feel like I am in my purpose when I see messages like that. So thank you for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here.
Thank you for being here. This was so awesome. It was so enlightening. I mean, really, when you talk about going back to your 4-year-old self, that's everything. And that's actually something I'm going to take and put in my bag and give to other people, because that's what's needed. When we go back to that place where we have no inhibitions, where people didn't pile a bunch of their stuff on us. If we could just go back to that, and begin with the meditation, because I meditate every morning. We begin with that, and then we can we can definitely find our purpose.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Thank you, Tracy.
All right. So thank you for joining us again. You have been absolutely amazing. So all of you guys, please make sure you go to melaniefiona.com and subscribe to our newsletter, or go over to Instagram to at Melanie Fiona, right? Is that the, yep. Melanie Fiona.
All my hands. Yep.
Yep. And subscribe to her newsletter there. You will not be disappointed. She said, these young female artists have nothing on you, girlfriend. Still have your hat mail from when you came to Sobs. Love to y'all queens.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's probably an NF hat. I love it.
All right, Letty, thank you again. We sure appreciate you. Take care.
I appreciate you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. You are wonderful. You're light. Conversing with you is just like talking to an old girlfriend. Thank you so much for being amazing at what you do. Shout out to Robert. I hope to connect with him soon in the future. Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
This will not be the last, for sure.